Namaskaram everyone, hope you're having a great day. In today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I got from a question from one of the subs here, from one of you guys. So this person asked me, have you done psychedelics, maybe LSD, DMT or Ayahuasca? Sadhguru usually talks about weed, but from what I've heard from friends, people become spiritual after these psychedelic experiences. They realize that there's something more than the body-mind. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are. So thanks for the question. Sadhguru actually did talk about ayahuasca, but I don't think there's a video of it. When I did inner engineering, someone asked about shamans, and apparently he went on the road with shamans. So basically I did inner engineering with Sadhguru, and there was like a Q&A session. And this guy, he asked about all this stuff. It was actually a little bit embarrassing because he was talking for so long, telling his story with shamans and everything. And then he asked about ayahuasca and medicinal mushrooms and all this. And it was kind of funny because, we were there to, get a scientific method for exploration. And he was just like doing this California thing. Oh, I did ayahuasca, I'm so, it's the best thing, like he's doing a party thing, like he's being on a party or something. And it was kind of embarrassing for me because I had done ayahuasca before, and I just felt like he didn't see the gravitas it has and the immensity, the gravity that it brings. The substances are really big, and there's something that you cannot take lightly, in my opinion. You have to really make sure you're doing things with a certain type of importance and you give it a certain kind of respect. So Sadhguru just basically said the physical aspects of it are that if you're living in the tribal place in South America and you're living in the rainforest, then you need to cleanse your body, and ayahuasca was something that they used to puke out parasites and shit out parasites and all this kind of stuff. And there's definitely an aspect to that as well. But I think that Sadhguru didn't want to talk about not that he didn't want to, I think he didn't see the necessity for us to do these things, and he doesn't want to promote it. So that's why he didn't tell us, wow, do that and you'll get a shot of distance or whatever, because that's kind of what I feel. When I did ayahuasca, it got me into a place where I was very involved, but I was also at the same time very, very distant to my memories. So when I did it, I was doing it with a shaman and everything. It wasn't in Peru, but it was with someone who did it a lot, and he's done it with the shamans, and it was kind of a group setting. And truth be told is I fasted for 3 days because I really wanted to get rid of my social anxieties that I had at the time. Because if I rewind a little bit, I actually did go to many festivals at one time, and I take a lot of MDMA. I've never done cocaine or anything. But I liked MDMA a lot. Although I didn't do that much, at one point I just kind of did a mistake, and there was these two teachers in an after party after the festival, and they wanted some weed, and I kind of brought them some weed, and then I had a lot of weed over because I got much more weed than what they gave me on money, and then I kept it, and the next day I actually took already some mushrooms the day before on that first festival day. I was in university, and I just didn't think much at that time. I was 18 or so, or 19, I guess. Then I took the mushrooms again that day, and then I rolled myself a huge joint this big with tobacco. And then this guy came, and he had water, I thought, but it was 2CB, which is kind of a synthetic kind of it's kind of it makes you hallucinate, and it's mescaline, so it's kind of synthetic mescaline from the cactus plant. And I really wouldn't recommend that stuff at all. Kind of makes you get horror trips, and I had done that once before when I did an LSD that fell into a 2CB liquid or some story that was, I don't know how that's possible, but it apparently was a blotter, so a piece of paper, like a little one that people put on their tongues, which had LSD and 2CB on it. And I already had like a trippy night that time. I saw like it was a club I went to the first time I did LSD, and I'm kind of rambling about everything, please stick with me. So there was this like wild pig trophy thing hanging on the wall, and it was really, really creepy the first time I did it. Second time when I did it with weed and tobacco and mushrooms. And when I closed my eyes and I was just partying, it was like a techno festival with 4 or 5 stages. It was really nice, and I kind of felt like I'm Optimus Prime, who's dancing in a light tunnel every time I closed my eyes, and I was just like doing the shuffle dance and really, really partying and sweating and everything. Every time I opened my eyes, it looked like all the people around me were creeped out by me, and that really annoyed me, and I got a little insecure about it. So I would always change the stage and go somewhere else, and I would dance, and it was really, really nice. And then I would just basically open my eyes and look at people, and I would just be creeped out by how them looking at me, and I got social anxiety. So I just, like, at one point I felt like my whole inner mirror kind of broke and shattered, and I felt like nobody, likes me, and I thought everybody's weirded out by me. I thought I was weird, and I just left the party. And there's a lot more to tell about that, but basically after that I was staying a lot at home, and I just hanged out with the friends I knew for a long time, and I didn't feel much connected to them. And when strangers would come, I was a little shy, which is really not my thing. Usually I'm very outgoing and happy to meet people, and I love being with people, new people, talking with people. But for 6 months, I was just like kind of in my home, my room in my commune in my university, and I was really not doing well. I was, because of this one incident, I kind of got some, my mirror was shattered, whatever that means to you guys. But it's hard to explain that, but it's like at one moment I just changed, and just something shifted within me, and it wasn't a good thing. And then at that time I was doing a lot of, for a longer time I was doing like a fat diet, and I was eating a lot of meat, and I was listening to this podcast from this guy called Dave Asprey at Bulletproof Radio, and he was talking about ayahuasca. And then I wanted to do it, and then randomly it was really kind of miraculous event, because my dad wanted us to go to Morocco just for no reason. We went on this vacation, and there was really nothing to do there. And then we met this guy, and my dad hanged out with him. I was like texting with my ex-girlfriend at the time, like all these weird stuff at that time, life. But I was not in a good place at that time, because I was, I didn't know what I wanted with life. I was doing university, and all these things were not, they weren't going in the right direction. They were just going everywhere, and I was being scattered all the time with my desires. I didn't know what I wanted, and all these kind of things. And then my dad, I talked with my dad about ayahuasca, and he thought it was a good idea. So he kind of starts talking with that guy who we meet because of some really strange incidents. Like, we bought some jewelry from some Bedouin people, and then they recommended us to a certain restaurant, and then in that restaurant, the owner of that restaurant, he was like the shaman, the ayahuasca guy, but he was low-key about it, and you wouldn't see it. He was like a regular guy from like European country, and we didn't have a great experience at the restaurant. And so my dad was then kind of telling the owner, like, what is this shit? And then they actually got friends, and then I went back home, and I texted with my girlfriend and blah blah, my ex-girlfriend at the time, and hoped maybe get back together with her, and like all these things. And then they talked a lot, and then my dad brought up like ayahuasca, and then he said, well, if you want to do that, no problem, like we do that every now and then. So then I got into this connection, and then I did it actually with my dad, and so I really wanted to get rid of this social anxiety. So I read up on the internet that if you really want to have these strong experiences with ayahuasca, it's good to not eat or drink for like 3 days, or not you can drink but not eat. And so I just stopped eating for 3 days, and I never done that before. It was the first time I like fasted for like longer than a day, I guess. And it was really, really hardcore, because I was really my ego was becoming really sour and aggressive and unpleasant, you know. Even my breath turned disgusting, so to speak. And when I came to the place, we had to dress up in white. Everything had to be white, and we had to, you know, all these people. At the time, I was thinking like they're really weirdos, and I'd not been doing Isha yoga I didn't even know about Sadhguru at that point. So it was, I might have done a little Sivananda yoga for a little while. That was like the maximum that I did. And before that, I maybe had done some Feng Shui or something weird that my mom wanted me to do, or something like that. But, you know, Feng Shui, I don't know, there was this Feng Shui lady once who did some meditation with me. That was like all I did before. And when I came there, like the most ugly parts of me came out, and I felt really, really, I was like about to punch people in the face for no reason. But even worse than that, like I was just hating myself. Everything was awful. And in that moment, actually, that was the first step. I realized, you know, this is not me. Like, this is something else that I'm not. I'm not this ugliness. I knew that. And that was like 5 minutes before we were then taking the ayahuasca. So, you know, I felt like shit, and I drank it, and it tastes really awful. Like, really bad. It was the worst thing I've ever had on my tongue in my whole life. And it was like a lot, you know, it was like double the dose that the others got, because you know, me and my dad did it for the first time. My dad was there too, he did it also, which was really good, because afterwards we were starting doing the ceremony, and you kind of have to move in a certain way, and it's very ritualistic and all this stuff. And I actually fainted, which I never done in my whole life. So literally, I was dancing, doing this kind of move that you do, and we start singing songs and all, and I just faint. And then the next moment, I open my eyes, and everything is like, you know, everything's like this right now, and then everything suddenly is flipped. And that was a super cool, strange experience, because I was like dancing and feeling like shit and everything, and then suddenly I opened my eyes again, and everything was like this. And everything was changed at that point. All this ugliness was gone. I was like reborn. And also, it felt like everything that was like this, it felt like that's the way it's supposed to be, or it felt like straight, although it was like this. So it was like I saw the world for the first time, and if you see the first time you see it like this, it looks fine, it looks straight. You don't have to understand it, but that's how it was. And then I stood back up, and I was like, okay, what's this? And I danced again, and I fainted again. And by that point, my dad actually kind of woke me up, or somebody woke me up, and I went to a bed, and I lay down, and I started seeing like the craziest, most beautiful things, also the most ugliest things of my life. I was seeing my birth. I was literally seeing my birth. So the thing was, I was laying there, and there was like these bright fluorescent lights above me, and I just, it kind of beamed me back to my birth. So when I was born in this hospital in New York, there was this fluorescent lights, because in every hospital they have these fluorescent fucking lights, right? And it bugged me out. So when I was born, the first thing I saw was these lights, and then that bugged me out, and it was also bugging me out there in the room where I was in the ceremony. So that's kind of beamed me into this birth thing. But then I saw my mom and me from a third perspective, how she held me right after birth. And guys, that was the most beautiful, most amazing, most incredible moment of my whole life, by far. When I do shit shakti with this for love, when it says about, remind yourself of the most beautiful moment, that's the moment I remind myself of. And that was, I can't even like describe how beautiful that was, because my mom, she held me in her arms and she just gave me this complete love, and I gave her that complete love. And I don't know, guys, it's just something undescribable. And I also became, for the first time, really truly loving for God, so to speak. I didn't know, I'm not saying I believe in God or anything like that, but I just became very loving for the mother of my mother, so to speak, the creator of us, the mother who made my mother, the person or the somethingness or the universe that created the possibility for two people to have this moment. You know what I mean? So that was just fantastic moment during the ayahuasca. And then later on, I kind of had this dark moment where I was seeing all this shit that happened when I was between 7 and 14. I was in a really bad place in my life. I was like really suicidal, and I thought everybody wanted me dead, but that's another topic for another story. But I saw all this stuff, but I saw it from this third perspective. So it was like me kind of going through my memories, and I was looking at, and I saw this ugliness, but I kind of released it, I kind of let go of the ugliness, and I realized, okay, that's what it was. Whatever happened back then, it was how it was, and these feelings I had, I don't have to attach to them. It's like if somebody cuts off your finger, you're gonna have pain. Same thing, it was just mental. So I don't have to suffer about it. So I just felt the pain, and it was fine, actually. I didn't suffer about it. I just saw it for what it was. And then I basically had like these questions that I had written down beforehand that I wanted to ask. And I started asking these questions, and I had this dialogue with, I called her Aya, because that's kind of what the shamans in South America, they do call the plant soul, or the plant god. They call her Mother Aya. So I just had this conversation with this female voice, and I knew this is Mother Aya. This is like I'm communicating with the plant. But at the same time, like from retrospect now, I'm not sure if I just communicate with my subconscious and it's all kind of a play of the consciousness, I don't really know about the reality of it. But at that moment, I was really communicating with this extremely wise, all-knowing voice, female voice, very soothing voice. And I was asking questions, and honestly, I don't even remember all the questions, because the answers I got, they were like instant, they were complete answers, and I felt like I always knew the answers, but I had so much fog around everything that I didn't see it. But one question that I remember and stuck with me, because it was something so fantastic, it kind of put an effort to remember it. I was asking about I was asking if it's okay to eat meat and cows and pigs and whatever. And then this voice said, everything is consuming itself all the time. Everything is consuming itself all the time. And I was like, wow, that's true. Like everything is constantly in a transformational state. It just transforms from one thing into another thing. And then I saw this kind of movie, okay? Like I was seeing these movies all the time, and one of these movies that I saw that moment was, I was in the forest, and I'm seeing myself from the third perspective, and it's not like I'm even seeing Frederick, I'm just seeing like a person, but I know it's me. Everything felt like me. So I'm seeing this person, and I'm in this forest by the beach, and I'm kind of picking up a stone, and I'm looking at the stone, and the stone is kind of like an infinite possibility, realm of infinite possibility. It contains an infinite amount of possibilities. And I'm looking at the stone, and I'm imagining how I can put the stone in my room, and it would be very beautiful. It was a beautiful stone too, but it was actually just a regular stone. But in that moment, it felt very beautiful. And I imagined how I can carve something into a tree, like a message or something. And I imagined how I can like build a tool out of it, and all kinds of stuff. And then the most incredible thing, to kind of highlight the point, I was seeing a lot of stones carving on that beach, turning into sand. And then the sand turning into soil, and the soil turning into animals, and then, me being an animal, but also the possibility of eating an animal, becoming me, and then me dying and becoming ash, and that ash becoming soil, and the soil becoming stones, so it was a loop. So like these kind of stuff, I had a lot of them, but these are the ones I remember right now. I didn't really write much down afterwards, so I just remember a few couple very important parts of the ayahuasca experience. And actually, even after I was doing all these things, I got pulled back into reality a little bit, and it was like time to have the second hit. And that time I was actually very afraid, and I wanted to quit. I wanted to eat something because this stuff was really, really heavy on my stomach also, as I hadn't eaten for so long, and I got afraid that something might happen. But at the same time, I just kind of needed someone to tell me it's okay, it's fine, we can do this. So that happened. One woman came to me and she was like, you can do this, it's fine. And then I take the second hit, and then after that I had to puke. And when I puked, one of the things I read online before was that when you puke, your sins kind of flow over the puke. So I puked out all this like stuff, water basically, into a container, like where you put the mug in, for example. So I puked into this thing, a bucket basically. I puked into the bucket, and there was like this little white film, like a little white kind of very thin, kind of like a gold, like gold film, floating, but it was silver white. And inside the gold film, silver film, there was like these movies playing in this silver film, and I saw all this like kind of disgusting stuff in my life, sin, all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't that strong. It wasn't like I was seeing a whole movie in every of these little tiny blotters that were swimming on the water, on the puke. But when I looked in the mirror for the first time after I puked, because I went to the toilet to wash my mouth and all, I saw a completely different human being than before. So before, when I looked into the mirror, I was always like trying to look in a certain way, tried to portray myself in a certain way, I guess. And then after that, I was looking at myself, and it was like I'd look at a baby. It was like looking in the mirror and seeing a baby, like somebody who is innocent and pure. And that was really, really beautiful, guys. No question. And I thought it would look really terrible also, because usually when you take other stuff, sometimes you look in the mirror, you look like shit. When you take other drugs or psychedelics or stuff. But yeah, so I went back to the ceremony, and then I actually participated in the ceremony. I was doing the dance and all this stuff and singing the songs. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it was really beautiful. A lot of stuff happened. At the end, I felt like I had a very merging experience of all my sensory perception. Like I would start to hear, to see the things that I felt, and I would start to hear the things that I would see, and like my perception got very, very strong, and it got very, very unified. Like all the sense perception turned into one sense, kind of. So yeah, that was my ayahuasca experience, and I've done it, and after that I've done it another time. And one of the themes that I realized during all this is that I'm easy to quit, but if somebody, so like if I start doing something at 80% of it, I feel like I have to give up, or something like that. I don't want to finish it, and then I need someone to tell me it's alright, and then I can continue. And it's something that's been in my life for a long time, and now I'm starting to really doing all the Isha yoga stuff, really starting to become able to finish things. But for the longest time, even in like school exams, like the last questions, I would be super fiddly, and I would not, I would just write something and give give it back to the teacher. So the same with that's what I realized with doing the ayahuasca a lot, because when I did the second time, I just kind of wanted to give up, It's a whole nother story actually. There's a lot of stories in this kind of sense. So yeah, I mean, ayahuasca is not really a psychedelic drug to me. It's more like, because when you take psychedelic drugs, everything changes in a very physical way. But with ayahuasca, you still feel like you're the same guy. Like, it's weird. Like, it's hard to explain. But yeah, that's kind of my ayahuasca story. And then after that, I came to Sadhguru and all this. So I mean, it definitely played a big role in my spiritual quest and all. So I have a lot of love for ayahuasca, and I think it's very powerful. And in a way, you have to treat it with a lot of respect, because it's something where you open up the subconscious in your life, in your mind, and you really become, very open. So one has to come in there with a certain appreciation and a question and something you want to solve in your life. You should not do this stuff recreationally. Whereas with LSD, you can do it recreationally. It's just a little stupid. I mean, I've done it and it's fun, but I had the necessary awareness to realize, okay, you can do that once in a while, and you shouldn't be doing that a lot. So with LSD, I don't really know how spiritual it's going to make you, but for me, LSD helped me combat my weed addiction, because that's a whole nother story, but that's what happened for me. I realized that smoking weed was kind of pointless and not even really enjoyable and fun. It was just kind of a compulsion and a different reality that wasn't much important, because I saw when I was doing the LSD how crazy life can be. So that was, or how intense it can be. So then I stopped smoking weed, and magic mushrooms was my first psychedelic, which I think it was really beautiful. I mean, I was flying through the universe, and crazy stuff happened. I mean, if you guys are interested in, I can tell you all these stories as well, but I don't want to make this video too long. So the question is, can psychedelic drugs, make you spiritual? I don't think things can make you spiritual. You are spiritual, but it can help you gain a distance between the body, the mind, and you. And it can definitely help you resolve issues you have in your life, but you have to make sure you write them down. You really become aware of the problems you have, because I became aware of the social anxiety that came out because I took these 3 drugs at once. But it was in me for forever. It was just, it became aware, or it manifested more strongly in my life, and I wanted to get rid of that. And so when your desire to resolve something in your life becomes really strong, and you get a lot of clarity that you need to resolve it, it will resolve. And so for me, in my life, it happened to be ayahuasca that resolved it for me. But it could be anything else. It could have been a certain person or girlfriend or Sadhguru or anything. But in my life, it was this ayahuasca experience. So if you have something that you really need to resolve, just get clear that you want to resolve it. And eventually, if ayahuasca is the tool of choice, then it'll happen for you. You don't have to do anything about it. But it might be something else. So I don't really look at this thing in any kind of dogmatic way, like this is good, this is bad. It's a tool. You can use it. If it's worthwhile for you, it'll happen for you. But just be very cautious about these things, in the sense that you really want to go in with the utmost amount of respect, And what I did see, though, when I was at the Isha Yoga Center, the people that have done these psychedelic drugs, they have a different kind of respect to the whole affair than people that didn't. So what I mean by that is, some people, they just kind of innocent about this whole spiritual stuff, because when you do these kind of psychedelic drugs, you get to a point where you kind of see something really, really, you see the beyond or something like that. You see something very intense, and you become very aware that you're playing with something very fundamental, beautifully strong, powerful, all this stuff. And then once you're at the Isha Yoga Center, for example, you have a certain different kind of respect to the whole thing, and a different kind of humbleness to it also. And I'm not saying you need to do it to go to the Isha Yoga Center at all. I'm just saying that it's something that I saw in a lot of people, and I talk with people about these kind of things. And it's something that, people who do not take these psychedelic drugs, you can tell they didn't take it. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just there's a difference. Like once you do this, take these kind of stuff, you will change. Something about you will change. And if you're very careful and considerate about it, and it's something that, you know, can help you, it will come and it will manifest. But if you're being unaware, which I'm sure you guys are not, you can also start becoming compulsive about these things, which is very bad, and you will destroy something that is very pure and beautiful in your life. So I hope you guys got something from this video. It's been a pretty long one, and I hope that you guys liked it. Give me a thumbs up. I'm really telling you guys a lot about personal stuff, but if it can help you guys on your journey, then it's well worth it. So thank you guys, and I see you in the next video.